Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on the lamest villains in Skyrim. First up is Ulfric Stormcloak. Ulfric Stormcloak is the Jarl of Windhelm and leader of the Stormcloak Rebellion, a civil war faction fighting for Skyrim's independence from the Empire. He killed High King Torg the Unbending using the Thum, a dragon shout, which is either an honorable Nordic duel or cold-blooded murder depending on who you ask. This act triggered the civil war that's tearing Skyrim apart when you arrive. He presents himself as a freedom fighter standing against imperial oppression and Thalmor religious persecution. Inspiring stuff. Real, give me liberty or give me death energy. Here's the thing though, Ulfric is a Thalmor asset, not metaphorically, literally. There's a dossier in the Thalmor embassy that explicitly identifies him as an asset to Thalmor interests. The document states that contact with Ulfric should be maintained as long as the war continues, but notes that a Stormcloak victory is also to be avoided. The Thalmor want the civil war to keep going indefinitely because it weakens both Skyrim and the Empire, making it easier for the Thalmor to maintain dominance over the continent. Ulfric's entire rebellion, his grand stand for Nordic independence, serves exactly the interests of the elven supremacists he claims to oppose, and the best part, he has no idea. This man genuinely believes he's fighting for freedom while doing precisely what his enemies want him to do. The strategic thinking on display here is extraordinary. You're weakening your own province, fracturing the only military force capable of resisting the Thalmor, and playing directly into their hands. But don't worry, I'm sure that'll work out great for Nordic sovereignty. On top of that, Ulfric runs Windhelm with policies that can generously be described as racial segregation. The Grey Quarter is a slum where dark elves are forced to live in squalor. Argonians aren't even allowed inside the city walls. They work the docks and sleep outside. When confronted about any of this, Ulfric's response is basically, I have a war to fight, as if systemic discrimination requires less effort than basic human decency. The man preaches Nordic strength and independence while creating the conditions for Skyrim's collapse, and treats non-Nord citizens like garbage while occupying the moral high ground. Truly inspiring leadership. The real disappointment is that players expected a compelling revolutionary figure, a complex character fighting against genuine oppression. Instead, we got an unwitting puppet too stupid to realize he's being manipulated, whose racism and short-sightedness make him the perfect, useful idiot. Congratulations, Ulfric. You fought for freedom by doing exactly what the fascist elves wanted. I'm sure the Thalmor are very grateful for your service. Next up is Ancano. Ancano is a Thalmor advisor stationed at the College of Winterhold and the main antagonist of the college questline. His entire plan can be summarized as touch the glowing orb and shoot magic at people. That's it. That's the extent of his scheme. The Eye of Magnus, an ancient artifact of supposedly unimaginable power, appears in Sarthal, and Ancano's master strategy is to stand next to it and channel its energy while firing destruction spells at anyone who objects. His stated motivation is gaining power for the Thalmor, which is the most aggressively generic villain objective possible. Evil Elf wants magical power. Groundbreaking. The Eye of Magnus itself is never properly explained. What is it? What does it do? Why is it called the Eye of Magnus? What is Ancano actually trying to accomplish with it? The game does not answer these questions. The college faculty express vague concern about its power. Ancano declares he'll use it to assert Thalmor dominance, and then he just stands there, shooting a beam at the thing. The artifact at the center of the entire questline remains a complete mystery. For all the narrative clarity provided, it might as well be a giant magical loot box that Ancano really wants to open. His combat strategy is stand here and shoot this, which is coincidentally also the extent of his character development. Ancano has no personality beyond smug Thalmor wizard. No interesting dialogue, no compelling motivation beyond generic power lust, no character arc whatsoever. The final boss fight consists of using the Staff of Magnus to close the eye, at which point Ancano becomes vulnerable and you just hit him until he dies. He's essentially a stationary turret with a health bar. I've fought more mechanically interesting mudcrabs. This represents the wasted potential of the entire College of Winterhold questline. You join a prestigious magical institution, and within approximately 5 quests, you're the Archmage. No meaningful progression, no deep magical study, no intricate political intrigue among the faculty. Just a rushed series of dungeon crawls culminating in fighting a generic elf who's trying to do something vague with an unexplained artifact. Players expected a questline about magical research, ancient mysteries, and scholarly conflict. Instead, we got go to dungeon, fight Draugr, become Archmage, fight beam-spamming Thalmor. The college questline speedruns you through what should be a complex narrative arc, and Ancano is the perfect representation of that failure. He's a placeholder villain, evil wizard, template number 3. His grand plan requires him to stand still, his motivations are generic, and his defeat is unmemorable. From Ulfric the manipulated idiot to Ancano, the generic evil wizard, with no depth whatsoever, Skyrim's villains continue to disappoint. Moving on to the Blades. Esbern and Delphine aren't villains in the traditional sense, but they're antagonistic and infuriating enough to earn a spot on this list. The Blades were once the elite dragon hunters and protectors of the Empire, sworn to serve the Dragonborn. Now they're reduced to two paranoid people hiding in the ruins of their extinct organization. Delphine runs a tavern in Riverwood. Esbern lives in the Ratway sewers in Riften. Together, they represent the last remnants of a once legendary order, and somehow, despite this position of complete irrelevance, they've decided they're in charge. Here's where it gets good. After you defeat Alduin and save the world, Delphine and Esbern demand that you kill Paarthurnax. Paarthurnax is the ancient dragon who helped humanity learn the Thuum in the first place, which was essential to defeating Alduin during the Dragon War. He's currently sitting on top of the throat of the world, helping you become stronger, posing zero threat to anyone, and has spent thousands of years atoning for his actions during the Dragon War when he served Alduin. He's a reformed dragon who actively aids you throughout the main quest. He's basically the most helpful NPC in the game, but Delphine and Esbern don't care. Their position is kill him anyway, or we won't help you. Let that marinate for a second. Two unemployed dragon hunters with a combined relevance score of 0 are issuing ultimatums to the Dragonborn, the person they are supposed to serve. The Blades exist to serve the Dragonborn. That's their entire organizational purpose. You are literally their boss by divine right, and they're threatening to withhold their help, which at this point consists of absolutely nothing because you've already saved the world. The logic here is extraordinary. Yes, Paarthurnax helped defeat Alduin, both anciently and currently, and yes, he's been meditating peacefully for thousands of years, and yes, he poses no threat whatsoever, but he was bad once, so kill him. Meanwhile, their entire argument ignores that they're demanding you murder your ally and mentor because of crimes committed millennia ago. If we're holding grudges for ancient history, maybe we should discuss how the Blades failed to prevent the Oblivion Crisis or stop the Thalmor from dissolving their order. Refusing to kill Paarthurnax locks you out of Blades content permanently. Delphine and Esbern just stop talking to you. The community universally despises this ultimatum. Paarthurnax has better character development than most of Skyrim's cast, and the game forces you to choose between murdering him or losing access to a faction. The Paarthurnax Dilemma mod exists specifically to add dialogue options that let you tell the Blades to get over themselves, which should tell you everything about how players feel about this situation. Two has-beens whose organization is extinct are trying to boss around the prophesied savior of the world. Servants threatening their master. Truly, the strategic thinking we've come to expect from Skyrim's antagonists. From disappointing villains to infuriating allies who act like villains, the hits keep coming. Next up is Mercer Frey. Mercer Frey is the guildmaster of the Thieves Guild and the secret traitor at the center of the Thieves Guild questline. He stole the skeleton key from the Twilight Sepulchre, which angered Nocturnal and caused the guild's luck to fail and its fortunes to decline. He also betrayed and murdered Gallus, the former guildmaster, then framed Carlia for the murder and forced her into exile. All of this is presented as a shocking twist that you uncover through investigation and dramatic revelation. If you were surprised by Mercer's betrayal, I have a bridge in Riften to sell you. The twist is obvious from the moment you meet him. His voice acting drips with transparent treachery. His dialogue is written like a villain trying to sound trustworthy and failing miserably. Every interaction screams this man is going to betray you with the subtlety of a giant's club to the face. When Carlia finally reveals that Mercer killed Gallus and stole the skeleton key, the appropriate response is not shock, but yes, obviously we all knew that. The foreshadowing is so heavy-handed that calling it foreshadowing feels generous. It's more like present shadowing. The shadow is right there. You're standing in it. Mercer is supposedly a master thief, skilled enough to lead the guild and steal a Daedric artifact from a magically protected sepulchre. And yet when you finally confront him in Erkingthand, he's killed easily. Just standard combat. Hit him until he dies. No clever tricks, no master thief tactics, no mechanical complexity. For a man hyped as one of the greatest thieves in Skyrim's history, his final stand is about as impressive as a common bandit who got lucky with leveled loot. The real disappointment is that the Thieves Guild questline should be about clever heists, intricate planning, and the thrill of stealing things that shouldn't be stealable. Instead, it devolves into dungeon crawling through Dwemer ruins and Nordic crypts fighting Falmer and Draugr. You join a Thieves Guild and spend most of your time in dungeons fighting monsters. Mercer's betrayal is just another quest objective in a storyline that fundamentally misunderstands what makes thief fantasies compelling. And here's the most offensive part. Mercer Frey is voiced by Stephen Russell, the voice actor for Garrett from the Thief series, one of the most iconic stealth game characters in history. Bethesda hired Garrett's voice actor and gave him a character with none of Garrett's cunning, subtlety, or interesting personality. It's like casting James Earl Jones as a villain and having him whisper all his lines. What a waste. The Thieves Guild questline had potential. A master thief antagonist could have been compelling. Instead, we got a transparently obvious traitor whose betrayal surprises no one, whose combat encounter is generic, and whose existence represents everything wrong with Skyrim's faction questlines. From infuriating allies to obvious traitors with no subtlety whatsoever, the bar continues to sink. Next is Harkon. Harkon is the main antagonist of the Dawnguard DLC, an ancient vampire lord who rules Castle Volkihar. His grand plan is to block out the sun using Oriel's bow and fulfill the tyranny of the sun prophecy. The motivation here is straightforward. Vampires are weakened by sunlight, so if he eliminates the sun, vampires can walk around during the day without inconvenience. Problem solved, except this plan is monumentally stupid on a level that requires genuine effort to achieve. Let's think through the logistics. Blocking out the sun would kill all agriculture. Crops require sunlight for photosynthesis. No sun means no crops. No crops means no food for humans. No food for humans means mass starvation. Vampires need to feed on living humans to survive. Harkon's plan to make life easier for vampires would result in the extinction of their primary food source. This is the equivalent of burning down every grocery store to avoid the mild inconvenience of shopping. The sun causes vampires discomfort and stat penalties. Harkon's solution is to trigger societal collapse and famine that would kill the cattle, humans, that vampires depend on for survival. But it gets better. Even other vampires think this plan is idiotic. Serana, Harkon's own daughter, opposes him. She explicitly tells you that blocking out the sun is insane and would cause catastrophic consequences. Your vampire allies at Castle Volkihar express reservations. The Volkihar court vampires, the people who would theoretically benefit most from this plan, are not unanimously on board with the destroy our food supply strategy. When your own faction is saying maybe don't, it's time to reconsider your objectives. Harkon has lived for thousands of years. He's an ancient vampire lord with immense power, magical knowledge, and centuries of experience. And he uses this wisdom to devise a plan with the strategic foresight of a goldfish. The sun is annoying, so let's cause an apocalypse. Vampires have existed for millennia, dealing with sunlight through the incredibly sophisticated tactic of go inside during the day. But Harkon looked at this mild inconvenience and decided the appropriate response was ecological disaster. The final boss fight against Harkon is actually decent mechanically. Vampire Lord transformation, multiple phases, interesting arena. But his plan is so stupid that defeating him feels less like stopping a villain and more like putting down a rabid animal before it hurts itself. There's no satisfaction in stopping someone whose scheme would fail on its own through sheer logical impossibility. He's not a threat. He's a chore with a health bar. Richard Roxburgh voices Harkon, the same actor who played Dracula in Van Helsing. Bethesda hired Dracula and gave him a character whose master plan involves destroying the vampire food supply to avoid sunburn. Truly, an efficient use of voice acting talent. Congratulations, Harkon. You solved vampirism's one weakness by creating a famine that kills all your food. The strategic thinking on display here is genuinely impressive in its complete absence. From obvious traitors to villains with self-defeating plans that would accomplish the opposite of their goals. We're really hitting our stride now. Up next is Astrid. Astrid is the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, a supposed master assassin who runs Skyrim's premier contract-killing organization. She kidnaps you after you perform the Black Sacrament, locks you in an abandoned shack, and forces you to join by making you kill one of 3 hostages. Though we know Mystique is genuinely cool initially. She presents herself as calculating, in control, and several steps ahead. Unfortunately, her leadership strategy can best be described as fuck around and find out. Here's what happens. The Dark Brotherhood gets a contract to assassinate Emperor Titus Mede II. This is the biggest contract in decades, possibly centuries. Astrid, in her infinite wisdom, decides to betray you and the Emperor to Commander Maro of the Penitus Oculatus, the Empire's secret police. Her reasoning is that Maro was closing in on the Brotherhood, so she could save the organization by giving them you and the Emperor. A preemptive surrender to preserve the Brotherhood's existence. Solid plan. One problem. It accomplishes literally nothing. The Penitus Oculatus attacks the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary anyway. Most of the Brotherhood is killed. The sanctuary is burned. Nazir, Babette, and you survive through sheer luck. Astrid's betrayal, which was explicitly intended to save the Brotherhood, instead gets almost everyone killed and the sanctuary destroyed. The Brotherhood she betrayed you to protect is now in ruins because of her betrayal. Strategic planning at its finest. And then it gets better. You find Astrid in the burning sanctuary, horrifically burned and dying. She's performed the Black Sacrament on herself, the ritual to summon the Dark Brotherhood, to hire you to kill her as penance for betraying you. Let that marinate. She's lying there, burned alive, having destroyed the organization she led. And her solution is to use an ancient assassination ritual to contract you to mercy kill her. You're standing right there. She could just ask. Please kill me is a sentence she could say with her mouth. Instead, she performs a ritual to formally hire you for the task of ending her life. The bureaucratic dedication is admirable. The decision-making is not. This creative death doesn't make up for her terrible leadership. Astrid ran the Dark Brotherhood into the ground through a combination of paranoia, poor judgment, and a betrayal that achieved the exact opposite of its intended goal. She tried to save the Brotherhood by selling out its greatest asset, you, the listener, and the result was the near total destruction of the organization she was trying to protect. The irony is so thick you could cut it with Blade of Woe. The Dark Brotherhood questline is genuinely great up until this point. The contracts are fun, the characters are memorable, and the Emperor assassination is a properly epic mission. And then Astrid's catastrophic leadership decisions nearly end the entire faction. Master Assassin, organizational disaster. You assassinate the Emperor successfully anyway, which raises the question of what exactly Astrid's betrayal accomplished besides getting everyone killed. Her confidence, the "we know" mystique that made her intimidating, gets replaced with "I fucked up and destroyed everything." Turns out running an assassination guild requires more than just being good at murder. Management skills matter. Who knew? From self-defeating plans to active self-destruction through sheer incompetence. Skyrim's villains continue their downward trajectory. Moving on to Commander Morrow. Commander Morrow is the head of the Penitus Oculatus, the Empire's secret police and intelligence organization. He's the primary antagonist, hunting the Dark Brotherhood throughout their questline. Positioned as a competent security expert determined to destroy Skyrim's assassin guild and protect the Emperor. His son, Gaius Morrow, is an agent who travels between cities on intelligence missions. There's an optional Dark Brotherhood contract to kill Gaius in a specific city, to frame another faction for his death, which you can complete for extra payment. Commander Morrow's big revenge plan after you murder his son is to set an elaborate trap at the wedding of the Emperor's cousin in Solitude. Here's how that works out. The trap at the wedding kills some Brotherhood members during the To Kill an Empire quest. Morrow's forces are waiting. You fight through them, and it's presented as this brilliant counter-operation that puts the Brotherhood on the back foot. Very impressive. One small problem. You assassinate Emperor Titus Mede II anyway, immediately afterward, on the Kateria, his ship anchored in Solitude Harbor. The entire point of Morrow's operation, protecting the Emperor, fails completely. His elaborate trap inconveniences you for one quest, and then you murder his Emperor. Let's review Commander Morrow's job performance. He's the head of Imperial Security. His son gets assassinated. The Emperor he's sworn to protect gets assassinated. The Dark Brotherhood, the organization he's supposed to destroy, completes their contract successfully, and you walk away free. And what does Commander Morrow do after this catastrophic operational failure? He stands around in Dragonbridge doing nothing. No manhunt, no empire-wide search for the listener, no consequences for the player whatsoever. The elite security chief just accepts that his son is dead, his emperor is dead, and the assassin responsible is wandering Skyrim freely buying cheese wheels and collecting butterfly wings. His resume now reads, failed to protect son, failed to protect emperor, successfully stood in Dragonbridge. The man's entire career collapsed in the span of a few days, and his response is to retire to a small town and contemplate his failures. I've seen more persistent manhunts in Skyrim from guards who watched me steal a potato. You murder the Emperor of Tamriel, and Morrow's follow-up is approximately zero. The Penitus Oculatus, supposedly the Empire's most effective intelligence and security force, is less competent than local hold guards. The absurdity here is that Morrow is presented as a credible threat. The Brotherhood takes him seriously. He's built up as dangerous and effective. And then when it matters most, he fails at literally every aspect of his job. His trap at the wedding is the equivalent of locking the front door after the burglar has already cleaned out your house and is driving away in your car. Sure, you tried, but the timing leaves something to be desired. Comparing Morrow's competence to mall security feels generous. Mall security might at least chase you through a few stores. Morrow watches his son die, watches his emperor die, and then watches you continue existing without consequence. Possibly the worst bodyguard in Tamriel history. The strategic thinking, or complete lack thereof, is genuinely impressive. From Astrid's incompetence that destroys her own faction, to Morrow's incompetence that ruins his entire professional purpose, we've reached new depths of operational failure. But we're not done yet. Final villain is Alduin. Alduin is the literal world eater, firstborn of Akatosh, prophesied destroyer of Nirn, and the main antagonist of the entire game. He is the centerpiece of Nordic legend, the dragon who will consume the world at the end of time. After being cast forward in time by ancient heroes using an Elder Scroll, he returns to fulfill his destiny and bring about the apocalypse. He resurrects dead dragons from their burial mounds, heralding the end times. The build-up is incredible. Dragon attacks terrorize Skyrim's holds. Ancient prophecy points to the return of the dragons. The Greybeards speak of the Dragonborn who will face Alduin. The scope is epic. The stakes are the literal end of the world. The final fight is pathetically easy. You learn Dragonrend, shout Alduin out of the sky, and then hit him with whatever weapon you have equipped until his health bar depletes. That's it. No unique mechanics. No interesting phases. No dramatic shifts in strategy. The World Eater dies exactly like every other dragon you fought in the game, except maybe with slightly more health, adjust Dragonrend, and normal combat. The Apocalypse Incarnate is defeated using the same strategy you used on that Frost Dragon near Winterhold, and frankly the Frost Dragon put up a better fight, because at least it moved around more. Random dragon encounters in the overworld are frequently more challenging than Alduin. Blood dragons, ancient dragons, legendary dragons. All of these can pose more threat than the prophesied destroyer of Nirn. The being whose very existence is meant to signal the end of the current Kalpa, whose defeat should be the most epic moment in the game, is mechanically less interesting than a Forsworn Briarheart or a Draugr Deathlord. The main story climax is less exciting than most side quest bosses. Mirak, the DLC antagonist from Dragonborn, is harder and more mechanically interesting than the literal embodiment of Apocalypse. Let that sink in. The bonus content villain is a better fight than the world-ending god, and the ending somehow makes it worse. After you defeat Alduin, he doesn't have a proper death animation. He just disintegrates and flies away to Sovngarde, leaving you standing there. You don't absorb his soul like every other dragon in the game. There's no satisfying conclusion, no sense of finality, no dramatic confirmation that the World Eater is dead. The prophesied hero defeats the apocalypse, and the game's response is essentially cool anyway. The lack of closure is staggering. The community has been disappointed about this for over a decade. Every discussion of Skyrim's weaknesses includes Alduin's fight. The anticlimax is legendary in its own right. All that buildup, the ancient prophecy, the return of the dragons, the fate of the world hanging in the balance, culminates in a boss fight that feels like a mild inconvenience. You defeat the conceptual embodiment of the end times, using the same strategy you used on that mudcrab earlier. Approach and hit it until it stops moving. The narrative weight of Alduin is immense. The mechanical execution is non-existent. This represents the complete failure of Skyrim's main quest to deliver a satisfying conclusion. The World Eater should be terrifying, overwhelming, a test of everything you've learned. Instead, he's a damage sponge with wings who dies like a generic enemy with more health. Congratulations, you saved the world from apocalypse by applying mild violence to a dragon who forgot to bring any unique mechanics to his own boss fight. Truly, the epic conclusion we all deserved. In conclusion, Skyrim's villains range from strategically incompetent to narratively disappointing, and you should absolutely play it. If you enjoyed this, check out the most broken weapons in Skyrim, Peace on Planet Earth.